My name's James Monaghan. I'm the principal at North London Collegiate School, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the IB Diploma. So the IB Diploma stands for the International Baccalaureate. The diploma part of that is the final 2 years of the International Baccalaureate curriculum and fits within that framework. So as an IB through school or an IB World School, you can have the primary years programme, the middle years programme and the diploma. So often one of the mistakes parents often make is they think the IB is just the last 2 years of school. In fact, the IB is the International Baccalaureate, that's the organisation. And within that, there are actually 4 different programmes. There's the primary years programme, the middle years programme, the diploma, and then the career related programme, which was introduced in 2011. And why is the IB, originated in 1968 in Geneva in Switzerland. That's where the International Baccalaureate started. And it's the longest running framework of curriculums, which is why it's so popular. So that consistency in terms of assessment has been running since 1968. And whereas a lot of other curriculums have changed, chopped and changed, the British curriculum is one good example with AS levels, A levels, and then back to A levels. The IB Diploma has remained consistent since 1968. Not all schools offer the IB Diploma. There are currently in the UAE around 50 IB World Schools, and in Dubai there are 10 IB World Schools. The IB Diploma course is based around 6 subjects, and each student chooses 3 higher level subjects and then 3 standard level subjects. So the higher level subjects are those subjects that they're perhaps a bit more interested in, more passionate about. And then on top of those subjects, they also have what's called the core element. And the core element is the bit of the IB Diploma that makes it slightly different to a lot of other curriculums. And it's split into 3 areas. There is what's called the theory of knowledge, in which they do an examination and a presentation. They also do an extended essay, which is a university-style extended piece of writing where they learn to citate and reference. And then there's also what's called the CAS, which stands for the creativity, activity and service element. So this is not an assessed part of the course, but it is a compulsory part of the course. So they have to do elements of creativity, which could be within art or drama or music. They do elements of activity, which could be sport. And they also do an element of service, which means that they have to perhaps go out into the community, do some charity work, or do some shared community work within the school community. The IB Diploma has elements of final examination assessment, which takes place at the end of grade 12 after the 2 years. But along the way, depending on the subject, they'll also have elements of individual assessment, which are called IAs, or individual orals, called IOs, which are presentations. So in English, for example, they have to do an individual oral where they talk about and present on a particular element of a novel, perhaps if they're doing literature. In more practical subjects like art and drama, then the percentage of those individual assessments, individual orals, would be higher. In a subject like art, perhaps almost 100% with some of the courses. And then with other courses, core subjects like science and English and maths, maybe 20, 30, 40% individually assessed at school, and then maybe 50, 60% externally assessed and examined. So the IB Diploma is suitable for all students in many regards, but it does require an element of organisation and motivation. Because you're doing 6 subjects and there's also the core element, you do have to be really motivated and you do have to be quite organised, because doing 6 subjects as opposed to other curriculums where you might do 3 or 4 subjects just means that you need to be good with deadlines, you need to be making sure that you are up to date with all the pieces of work that you need to be doing, particularly if you've got 6 elements of coursework or individual assessment. So I would say motivation and organisation are 2 essential skills, but having said that, students can obviously learn those skills as they go through the course. I don't think with the IB Diploma you're doing any more hours than perhaps other curriculums, but again, I would say in grade 11 and 12 you should be working at least for 2 hours for your kind of school day evenings, and then at the weekend perhaps doing another 3 or 4 hours over the weekend in order to keep up with the course and make sure that you're prepared for those assessments. Highlights of the diploma for me are the fact that the course teaches you to think outside the box. It gets you to think conceptually, thematically. There is a lot of content that you need to know, but it's also about applying skills to unfamiliar situations. We often use the term thinking on your feet in academic situations that you're not necessarily 100% prepared for. The great thing about the way that the diploma is assessed is that it presents you with unfamiliar situations and then asks you to apply your content knowledge and your skills to that particular situation. So, you know, that's a highlight because it's asking you to essentially think in a way that universities want you to think. And that's why universities really like the IB Diploma, because they have had 2 years of studying in a very similar way to what you might have when you get to university, whereas other curricula don't do that often. The other thing is it also teaches you to write in an extended style. When you go to university, you're going to have to write long essays. A lot of curriculums don't prepare students for that first university essay. What the IB does from grade 6 upwards is it actually teaches students how to citate and reference. So students actually, as part of their learning, learn how to research, learn how to citate and reference in extended pieces of writing. And that begins in the middle years program as well as the diploma program. The IB is a framework. It's not really a curriculum. So the way that I often describe it is that IB schools sit on a spectrum. At one end, you have schools where they are really investing in students researching, a lot of project work. They're leaving the students to their own devices in terms of independent work. At the other end of the spectrum, you might have schools which are a bit more structured, which adopt, you know, a curriculum structure which follows a particular format. So it's very much about finding out where the schools that you're looking at sit within that spectrum. Are they at the kind of looser, more flexible end of the spectrum, or are they following more of a structure? And it depends really what you want as a parent and what suits your own child in terms of where you go. So for me, it's very much about the school rather than the curriculum. Schools that offer the IB Diploma might sit within an American curriculum framework, they might sit within an Indian curriculum framework, or like ourselves, they might be sitting within a British curriculum framework. But we're not a British curriculum school or an Indian curriculum school. We are IB schools. But the great thing about the IB is that there is that flexibility to incorporate elements of curriculums from around the world. Universities view the IB Diploma favourably around the world. One of the advantages of studying the IB Diploma is that it is globally recognised, whereas some curriculums are not. And what that means is that they know what they're getting in terms of the students that come from IB schools. Again, the skills that you learn within the IB Diploma, such as the citation, such as the referencing, such as that conceptual thematic approach to learning, is exactly what universities are looking for, because that is the way in which students have to learn and approach their studies when they get to university. That research element particularly. When you go to university, you might only have 8 or 10 hours of lectures a week, but you're expected to do maybe 20 hours of reading and research. So the great thing about the IB Diploma is that students are trained in those processes right from grade 6 when they're age 11 upwards.